Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the State of California versus Orenthal James Simpson. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony, upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being, as charged in Count 2 of the information. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, further find the special circumstance that the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, has in this case been convicted of at least one crime of murder of the first degree and one or more crimes of murder of the first or second degree to be not true. Signed this second day of October 1995, Juror 230. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict? So say you one, so say you all.
All right, counsel, Mr. Simpson, would you be seated, please? Just have it quiet in the courtroom, please.
And that was 12 years ago, and that's a clip that we have seen over and over and over again. And boy, haven't we talked about every aspect of that trial this week. If you missed it, you can download all of those hours. We have all 3 hours, and we'll have this last hour here in our final conversation with O.J. Simpson available on MN1.com. Let me say something about our justice system. In our justice system, the man that's sitting to the left of me that you will see momentarily, O.J. Simpson, was found not guilty. That's the verdict that you just heard read there. Yet over and over, every single day, he lives out his life by many people who look at him through eyes that this man is guilty and he's walking around and he got away with it. But yet, again, in our criminal system, it was a not guilty verdict. O.J., thanks again for this final interview here. Tell us about that moment. I could see you get a little bit choked up there.
Yeah, it was. You know, I was confident. You know, I told you I believed in the Lord. I knew I didn't do it, and I just felt there's no way they could convict me of something I didn't do. What I was more concerned about would be the reaction of us. I brought, as I said, I brought all the lawyers into the lockup before, and I said, when the verdict comes, I don't want any celebrating. And I had already told my sisters them, and they felt the same way. So you didn't see or hear, you know, any of my family members cheer and do that. I thought the media once again did a sort of a disservice, like when they take that camera and they move it over to Kim Goldman and stuff. They created emotion. You know, I felt bad whenever I see it. I feel bad for her. Right? I didn't kill her brother. You know, and I'm not guilty, but you still couldn't hurt for her when you saw that. And at the same time, they went to places around the country and they put cameras where they know it would be a negative reaction and they knew it would be a positive reaction, and they played it against each other all day long. And you saw those reactions with the white crowds and the black crowds, and to me that's creating news more than reporting news.
Yeah, well, you heard the commentary right before we went on. Bob Leonard was talking about this space, and certainly this week we've seen, he mentioned CNN, Fox, everybody's been giving it a lot of coverage, and then they criticize the fact that it's on IPTV here in this space on MN1.com, and as we say, it's an open forum. And you've talked about this before. You say that you get many requests for interviews, but it seems that they want you to go a certain direction, I guess.
Well, virtually everyone who, and you've seen him on the air, you know, Riley, I invite you to come on my show and talk, but you can't talk on those shows. You know, the Riley, the Nancy Graces, they interrupt you. You know, they go to commercial if you're making a good point, and they always sort of seed the panel with people that support them. You know, so I was here, as I told you before. I didn't want to come in and try the case at all. I just wanted to talk to clean up some misconceptions and talk to the public essentially about what they wanted to talk about, like the girl talking about the Swiss Army empty box, right?
Sure.
Where anybody who followed the trial realizes that wasn't that type of knife used according to the coroner, you know. But I'm sure for 12 years she's been thinking, oh, there was that Swiss Army knife box there, which I don't recall it being a part of this, the case. I do recall Furman talking about it after the case, you know, but I don't even think that was brought up.
It wasn't during the trial, no. Hey, there's something else, speaking of what's going on. There was some breaking news from Reuters that we just got in, and it's about the ghostwriter, Pablo Fenjeves, who says that it was your idea to do the book, If I Did It, and that it all germinated from you, basically. I'm essentially taking his quote and giving you a synopsis of it, but what's your reaction to that?
First of all, it's hard for me to believe that he would say that, because unless he was involved in the beginning, but it's simple. ask the guys who brought me the deal. You know, those guys are on record. They have their court statements. I mean, the Goldmans, I think, went after them and after my daughter's company. Just ask the guys who brought me the deal. These guys came. One guy asked me if I would do a book, and I said no. And months later, I guess they approached my daughter with an offer. So when they came to me and told me, but they said it would be a la Barbara Boxer's or Nicole Richie's book, which was fiction, but you knew it was sort of facts.
Right.
And I believe those was Reagan books too. So obviously they had already got the money or the offer of the money from Reagan before they brought it to me.
Yeah.
No big deal. I wasn't out trying to sell a book, and I certainly wouldn't have thought of doing a book like this. I understand the guy said that I was participated fully in the book. I did. I corrected for every chapter except the one chapter that's a hypothetical chapter. I corrected. When he sent it to me, he interviewed me on tape, took the tape, wrote, sent it to me, and I corrected everything. The day he got to that, I remember telling him, because it was always a point of contention, how are we going to handle that chapter? I said, I didn't do it. I can't tell you what to do. As long as you make sure it's fiction or it's hypothetical, as long as you say it, go write whatever you want to write. He said, man, I can't do that. Come on, let me ask you some questions when we got to that part. I had a couple of rules. I said, you're not going to write anything about anybody getting stabbed or cut or anything like that. And I wasn't, once again, going to try to make their evidence work. So he asked me some basic questions, you know, as I told you the other day, how would I get my house and stuff. Anyway, he goes and writes it. He sends it to me. And when I'm reading the transcript, I got my red pen out, and I'm reading this. Oh, geez, he made a mistake here. I had a Bentley. My Bentley was in the front yard. This guy couldn't have showed up with a Bentley, because if he did, it'd be two Bentleys there, right? Oh, here's another mistake here. You can't have these guys go through the back gate, because he read somewhere that a gate was broke. But it was a front gate intercom, right? You couldn't get through the back gate without a key. So, you know, he has Ron Goldman going through that gate, me going through the gate, this guy Charlie going through that gate. We would all have keys. It was strewed with that kind of stuff, right? And so I realized if I corrected it,
that it would seem like
people would say I wrote it. And there were some other real physically impossible things. If you come across my tennis court, you can't get behind Cato's, the room that Cato was in. You had to scale a 12-foot tennis court fence and dense vegetation. The only thing that's when I made up my mind. I'm not going to correct it. It's fiction. He wrote it. Let it go out the way it is. But I did question him. I said, what's this thing about me being mad at the dog? That the dog recognized Goldman, and that's supposed to get me mad. He said, we have to build up the anger, right? I said, but Nicole and I wasn't dating. She had tons of guys over. It wouldn't be no big deal if my dog recognized somebody. What would be the big deal of that?
A lot was made about the dog.
Yeah. But in any event, let's put on a smart hat and take stupid hats off for a change. If the people, the powers that be in L.A. thought there was any truth to this, they would subpoena me to come in, because this guy Charlie would have been an accessory after the fact. You know what I mean? And there's no time limit, on murder, right? So they know that if they had this evidence, if the police had the evidence the way he wrote it in the book, I don't think they would have ever charged me, because they would know how improbable those things were.
Yeah. All right, so we cleared that up, and again, so everybody knows, we've done these interviews where we've talked about every single thing. It's a lot of revelations, I think, that you might not know about, and you'll get them on mn1.com. You can download those other hours. Also, we want to thank Vu for catering all of this sort of stuff. Let's jump into something different, because one thing that's very interesting about you, I call it brushes with fame, because you had the career in football, but not just as an athlete. Also, you went on to Hollywood, and you've told me some things off the air that are funny, some great stories. Living in LA post, your athletic career. Naked Gun, you're famous for your role in Naked Gun. Do you think that's, people still yell at you, don't they, when you see them?
Yeah, a lot of college kids and stuff, they call me Nordberg, because they sort of grew up watching those Naked Gun movies, so they're always calling me Nordberg. And it was a fun character to play, because I basically was able to play straight. And the humor was what Leslie Nielsen did to me. And working with Leslie Nielsen, this guy, and George Kennedy, great old actor, but Leslie, he is a crack up from sun up to sundown. He's famous for having this whoopee cushion with him. So I remember we're going to lunch one day, and we're in the elevator, and some ladies get in the elevator, and then he said, oh, juice, I shouldn't have ate that, and and he got it down. He knows how to play the whole thing, right? So I'm assuming when we walk out the elevator, he's going to tell them it's a joke. He didn't. He just
just
let it
rolled
lie.
through.
These ladies had these looks on their face when we got out. Actually, they got out of the elevator the minute the door opened, and I don't even think it was their floor.
Let's talk about, I'm going to jump around, I'm going to scatter shoot here. Okay. You mentioned this to me, and this caught me off guard. I had no idea. First of all, I didn't know that poker is big in Hollywood right now. Almost everybody's playing poker. Ben Affleck, all those guys are trying to get into it. Sophia Loren was apparently a great poker player, and she's a friend of yours.
Best poker player I ever played one. I did a movie called The Cassandra Crossing over there, and we became friends. And she invited me to her house on most Saturdays, and she would host a poker game with Marcello Mastroianni and all these famous European actors. And she was easily the best poker player I've ever played with. And I don't know if I've never seen her on the celebrity poker game. I'm surprised. Maybe her stature
probably because
is
she's
light
and
at
too
this
old.
point.
She's older,
yeah,
probably
but
too.
she was a sharp. One thing you'll find, I found that the great actors were the nicest people. It was the borderline stars that were kind of the assholes. But the great actors, Paul Newman, I mean, he gave me some great advice. We were shooting The Tyrant Inferno, which was funny because you sit there and roll cameras, turn on the fire. He said all of a sudden the whole building is on fire around you. But I remember we were shooting a scene where we first find the fire, and I'm head of security, and this guy is injured, and my line to him is, call for help, right? And I'm tending to the guy, so I kept saying, call for help. But I was reading the line like, call for help, Mr. Newman, right? And the scene wouldn't work, it wouldn't work. So he finally, when they were getting more tape or something, pulled me aside. He says, look, you're in charge of security. I'm just an architect. So tell me, damn it, call. So he said, play your character, not your billing. He said, don't play the billing. I might, play your character.
Sure.
And that was the best advice I had ever gotten.
Did you
Because I never took acting classes or anything.
Did you keep in touch with any of those guys?
Well, Steve McQueen and I became real good friends up until his death. So we stayed friends. Most of the other people were, a lot older than me.
Right.
So I didn't keep up with them.
Michael Jackson, of course, you know what he went through, obviously, the King of Pop and his trial. And let's talk about his trial for a second, because I got a lot of questions from people about that. They wanted to get your thoughts on, because you're kind of a trial junkie, guy, is what I heard. You were court TV, watching and all that sort of stuff.
It's like with Phil Spector and stuff. If it's got interesting issues, I do watch. And of course, it's like everybody. It's like watching the Indy 500 and anticipating a crash. When we have celebrities, or Michael Vick, or celebrities involved. I finally understood the attraction of my trial once my trial was over and I started watching some of the more celebrated cases on court TV.
You mentioned this the other day, again, about Michael Jackson, the fact that your kids, he opened up Neverland to you. Somebody wanted to know more about that you were there for a couple days, or that you'd gone up a couple times?
Well, I lived in Encino, and the Jackson compound was at the bottom of the hill, in my neighborhood. And when they were kids, virtually all the other kids were very athletic. So I'm still very good friends with Jermaine Jackson. So Jermaine and Jackie and them, they'd come up and had a tennis court and had basketball hoops on it and play basketball. And they actually had a basketball team that played against other celebrity teams in softball. So I've known the family for many, many years. Michael was always sort of into his dancing and music. So when I guess I talked to Jermaine right when my trial was over, and people wanted to call and see how I was doing and stuff, and they directed them to where I was, and I said, well, the kids were coming up for the weekend and stuff, and it's too bad I can't take them to movies, I can't do anything. And he says, so he calls Michael, and Michael says, OJ, you're welcome to Neverland. I'm not there, but you're welcome to go up there, and everything's open for you. So I remember the first weekend, I let my kids each brought their best friend. We went up on Friday. We stayed until Sunday night, really, and Monday. And it was wondrous. I mean, the place is wondrous. I mean, you arrive there, and he had the train. He has these two choo-choo trains, one big one. And
a carousel, right?
Yeah, one. So you get the train, you go by the lake and the house and the station, and the first thing you come to is the amusement park, and then it goes all the way up to the zoo and back around. But as you're going across this field, you get these elephants running at you. So the elephants run up and they stop and they give the kids these peanuts to feed the elephants. I mean, it was truly wondrous. And not only did my kids have various birthday parties up there and weekends, even my older daughter, when she turned, I'm not going to say what age she turned, but she was turning in her 30s, she gave a party. He let her have her party and a weekend up there, and all her friends stayed up there on the ranch.
You know, the Neverland, too, is
And you know what? I just want to point out, this wasn't just for us. If you asked anybody in that area, the charities, I mean, he made that ranch available free. I mean, he picked up the whole cost of everything for crippled kids. We used to do a camp called Good Times. I started it with Michael and Dustin Hoffman and Neil Diamond. We all started this camp called Good Times because Dustin's nephew, they wouldn't let him go to summer camp because he had cancer. And they didn't have the means if he got sick. So we all got together, and I started doing a big Ritz-Carlton Coca-Cola Classic with celebrities and stuff for golf and raising money. And Michael gave a concert to the camp. But Michael always, you know, so kids with cancer could go to summer camp. And Michael always opened that ranch up for thousands of kids, you know, and you would get the fire department and the police department would work the machines and everything up there. But no generous person have you ever known. And I just refuse. I always thought Michael was maybe more asexual than anything. I just refuse to believe it. I think his problem is he's a little too loving. And it is something seemly, not so seemly about hanging out with young kids.
Well, do you think he gets hung out to dry now, even because he was, of course, you know, in his trial, he was found not guilty of some of the charges?
Yeah, well, the media will always, I mean, he's like many celebrities. Once he's convicted in the media, and as far as I know, he's never been convicted of anything outside of the media. I think Mark Furman has more convictions than me or Michael. You know, and he's on TV now.
Yeah, Furman will love
he's
that.
hosting the show. Yeah. He's the only guy convicted of anything in my trial. In any event, you know, he's still loved though. I mean, you know, he still has segments all over the world that really love him, and you know, I just hope he has peace and has found his peace with his religion and his God.
Talking about Neverland, you know Liz Taylor. You knew Liz Taylor. Give us a good Liz Taylor story.
Well, I was shooting a movie called The Klansman up in Orville. It's the first movie I ever shot, and all the media was up there. All the Hollywood media was there because it was this big meeting between Richard Burton and Lee Marvin, two legendary drinkers and, you know, kind of real outgoing personalities. And I recall I got up there, they were already shooting, and when I got there, Liz Taylor came with Burton, so we went to the set where they were shooting at some house on a farm to see everybody and to say hello to Terrence Young, who was the director who had done Dr. No and From Russia with Love, you know. He was the most commercial director in the world, big Englishman, you know, very high, you know, eat with white tablecloths and crystal, even if you're in the jungle, he was served, you know. And anyway, we come on the set, and the minute we walk on the set, Lee Marvin says, "Get that bitch off my set," right? And you could hear a pin drop, right? And Liz Taylor just walks around the room. I walk across the room, "Oh, Lee," you know, it turns out they knew each other, you know. Anyway, at lunch, this is the first lunch that I went to on this set. I'm digressing a little bit from Liz, but I'll finish with that. And we get in, they're going to have lunch to get to know each other, and Lee Marvin invites me. So they come on these old big black limousines like you see in the Godfather movies, right? And I'm in the middle, and I'm sunk all down, and the two of them, they're up on edge. So they both are sitting here.
On the other side.
On each side of me, you know. So finally, Burton says, "Where are you from?" You know, and I know he's not talking to me, and Lee Marvin is sitting there and says, "Me? You talking to me?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Where are you from?" He says, "Why? Is it going to make you a better actor? Are you going to be able to emote better with me?" He says, "No, just want to be curious about where your earth was from," right? So Marvin says something, then Marvin had a way of talking to himself before he talked to the other person, right? So Marvin says, "Well, I guess I'm supposed to ask him where he's from so he can be a better," he says, "So where are you from?" And Burton says, "Well, I'm from the depths of some of the deepest coal mines on the face of the earth." And Lee Marvin said, "Oh, you're from Ohio." You know, and it started there, and unfortunately, Richard Burton almost died. You know, he drank so much on the set.
Right.
And at first, they would both drink because they drink vodka.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell the story about the vodka.
Ava Gardner had told me that you drink vodka because if you go to lunch and you get a little tipsy, you can say you were sick. You know, because you can't smell vodka on the on the thing. But we would play games. You know, everybody was there. I mean, Cheryl Ladd had just married David Ladd, Lola Falana, Linda Evans. We're all up there, and we'd get
so
together.
you all hung out
We hung out,
afterwards,
yeah. And we'd go up to the house that thing. We'd play a game. But Richard had gotten so bad that he would insult everybody, right? So he went around the room insulting, and she said, "Ignore him." She would say, "Oh, ignore him, ignore him." And we're playing, I mean, Barry White's Love Theme had just come out, and he started reciting Camelot to Love Theme.
Too bad you didn't roll on that.
I wish I'd have taped it.
Yeah.
It was masterful.
Yeah.
In any event, he kind of said some real things about Liz, about zippers, you know, her operations. I mean,
Sure.
very, very not nice. And so I kind of step in on him, and he said, "Oh, with the Browns, you think?" I said, "Well, I'm going to show you." I take the bad end of the argument. I'm going to show you what muscle will beat brains. So I said, "Here, shake my hand." Now insult me. So he was insulting me, and I was squeezing his hand. I mean, he just totally ignored it. Totally ignored it. I'm thinking I'm breaking this guy's hand.
Did you?
I think I'm breaking this guy's hand. In any event, 4 days later, we had to helicopter him out of Orville. He went into St. John's Hospital for 6 months, you know, his liver and stuff. But when we read the report that he, not only did he have some liver problems or something, he had a broken hand.
Did you send him
Yeah, I
flowers
remember
at least,
David Ladd
something?
say, "You broke his hand,
Wow.
man." I saw him years later. I was doing Monday Night Football in D.C. I think it was a game that LT broke Theismann's leg.
Correct, yeah.
In any event, they were back together, Liz Taylor and him, and they were doing Private Lives, the play. And Nicole and I went and saw him and went backstage, and he was just so apologetic, you know. He said, "I don't even remember, but I know I was rude to everybody there." My Liz story is that Liz wasn't working, so she was always in this mobile home, right? And it was funny because she had just got out of some kind of hospital too when she first got there. I don't know if it was rehab or what, but she wasn't drinking. But she was with these two gay guys, and this is why she got so active in AIDS, because I think they both ended up dying of AIDS. But I remember they were smoking pot, right? They were smoking Sinzabia.
And wait, Liz
I remember
Taylor
that.
was smoking pot?
Yeah,
with
well,
these
the guys
yeah.
were smoking, and you know, I think she took a puff. But it was funny because I'm in this mobile home, and you got all these cops right outside the door protecting these guys in here smoking pot, you know. It was pretty funny. You know.
Today, they'd be all over the tabloids, you know,
Oh,
that
yeah,
for
everybody
whatever
smoked
would
pot,
happen.
I think everybody who's ever smoked pot still occasionally smoked pot.
I want to rifle through a couple of things, so I'm going to keep you short on some of these so we can get some
all
in,
right.
because we want to get other stuff in about Monday Night Football coming up on the flip side, and if people have sports questions. But let me rifle off a couple things. Roots, what was Roots like for you, that experience?
Oh, it was great. Problem with me with Roots, I mean, I had met Alex Haley before, read the book, and everybody wanted to be a part of Roots. But that guy right there, that LeVar Burton, I mean, embarrassed me because I was shooting in Rome a film, and I wasn't working out or nothing. So I come down and we're shooting most of the jungle stuff outside of Savannah, Georgia. So if you recall the scene that I had, he ran through my little camp. I was this Fulani traveling with my kid to Karawang and had on these robes and things. And he's supposed to run through my little camp, and I chase him. So they set up the shot, and he comes out of the jungle. He gets this long field, and they say, "Okay, when he gets here, you come out, and then you got to catch him before he gets to the end there, right in front of this other camera." So we come out. He takes off. I come out. I take off. I'm running. This guy is running. This guy is booking, right? LeVar Burton. So I just about catch him, but I can't get him before we get to the camera. So, okay, we got to shoot it again. I said, LeVar, you know, I mean, hey, I got to try to make up 40 yards on you. You got to kind of run, you know. So we, okay, set it up, shoot it again. I don't even get as close as I got the first time. And worse than that, now I am spent. I am sick. Right? I'm throwing up. I'm throwing up. They had to wait about an hour before we could finally shoot the scene again. And LeVar never let me forget it. I saw him like a month later on Johnny Carson's tell him how he outran me. And this was at the height of my career. Yeah. But I was proud to be a part of that.
We only have like a minute and change left, but quickly, Saturday Night Live, you were on Saturday Night Live, and that had to be, they'll show that clip, you know, when they have the old segments and stuff in the 70s. But then they did a reunion show, and you didn't get invited back to that. Did you feel snubbed?
I went to a reunion show years ago. And to be honest, I wasn't aware they had one since then, but I did go to one of the reunion shows. I don't know, was that 20-year reunion or something. Right. All I know, that was the most fun. Show you how the world changes. I did that show, and we had some skits with Bellucci and Aykroyd and everything, and we had Mandingo 2 skit, and we had a skit about Babe Ruth promising the kid that if you knew the criticism I got, the sports
For doing
writers
that.
around this country just barbecued me. It was tasteless. The show was a tasteless show. It was moronic. You know, then it became one of the staples, one of the great
Yeah.
institutions of, you know, theater or TV
We're gonna,
institutions
I think we have
in
that clip. We're
America.
going to show it after we come back. But 866-495-4122, 866-495-4122. We'll take questions and IMs and that sort of stuff next on MN1.com.